we gathered here today just to give an update on how Young Independence is doing, to promote a few projects we're working on, our conference coming up, a few things you can do to help Young Independence, and how you can support young people going on to UKIP in your areas or across your branches. Young people are a key part of politics that a lot of people don't actually realise, because most young people don't care, don't read the news, don't look at politics. Often that's true. But actually, if you look deeper, a lot of people are interested in politics. Because look at how Momentum's done. As much as I disagree with their politics, the way they've gathered young people is astounding. And it works electorally. It gets them so many votes. If we can mirror that sort of strategy without the violence and anti-Semitism, of course, then we could actually be looking at some pretty astounding poll rates. If young people can get on our courts, they can be delivering leaflets, using social media, utilising the powers of the internet and modern technology to bring about votes in ways that we've not even considered before.
Maple 2020.
That's the spirit. We can do this. All we need to do is find ways to get young people engaged. And what young people are looking for is an alternative. All they hear is politicians are liars. Politicians are crooks. They're corrupt.
Yeah, right.
And actually they're right in saying that. They are. It's true. But UKIP are different. That's why other people vote for us. But young people are the same. We've just got to present it in a way they understand. We've got to present it in a way that they can see it as something radical, something new, something different to the old politics. Gerard Batten is going about that in absolutely the right way. UKIP is making a massive, massive effort to put in a social media drive to get these young people involved. And Young Independence is a key part of that. Without further ado, I'm going to bring forward our first speaker, David Coburn.
Well, it's lovely to be here. Before I start, you all want to know what Scotsmen wear under their knickers.
Oh no.
I love UKIP. Can raffle those. Never mind.
Wash me first.
You're more fun otherwise. It's a joy to be here. I only just found out. People kept sending me messages that I was speaking at the conference. I thought you meant your other conference. So I'm very pleased that you've asked me to come and speak here. I hope you can all hear me at the back. I was in the Conservatives as a young man way back in 1968, would you believe. I think President Johnson was President of the United States. It was just shortly after, not many years after they killed Kennedy. So it just shows how old I am. But I joined as a very young guy, and I wanted to affect things. I wanted to change things. I wanted to make sure Scotland remained part of the United Kingdom, and that Scotland was out of the European Union. And I was a Teddy Taylor Tory in Glasgow Cathcart, which was very libertarian, free speech, and I've never changed my views. The Conservative Party have changed their views, but I've never changed my views. And quite frankly, the one thing I've discovered about many years in the Conservative Party, right up to 1995, when I was John Redwood's Deputy Press Officer in his campaign to remove the Prime Minister of the day, John Major, my first failed coup d'etat. I can assure you the Conservative Party are not interested in what young people have to say. They are not interested in what adults have to say. Essentially, Conservative Party members are life support systems at the end of a string attached to a blue balloon. That's as much say as you're ever going to get in the Conservative Party. That fact has never changed. When I was in the Conservative Party, I tried to change them into a Democratic Party. There was a movement in the Conservative Party for democracy. Came to nothing. Anybody who tried to back that found they'd never got a seat, so it all just came to nothing. The one good thing about being in UKIP is you have a chance to make things happen. You have a chance to have a say. As an MEP, the MEPs, the Tory MEPs in the House, in the European Parliament, and the Labour MEPs, they can't say anything. They're told what to say. They're just puppets, or more or less muppets. They just don't have anything to say. They are told what to think, told what to say. Their whole lives are just directed. And if they don't do that, they don't get on in the party. There's all sorts of sanctions they have. Whereas UKIP, well, I'm the chief whip. and I'm the most laid-back guy you're ever going to get. So we don't really have a whipping system. We do allow our people to think for themselves. And that's what you've got with YI. You have the ability to say what you think. You're not going to be squashed for coming up with something too outre. You did have a previous chairman who, well, he just went too far. That was many, many years ago. Even everybody thought he went too far. Even his girlfriend, I think. So they, he was a difficulty. But in general terms, you have a lot of say in what happens. And I know that Gerard wants to hear from young people. He wants the party to be more edgy. It's what I've always wanted. I've supported Dankula joining the party. Joined because I was backing freedom of speech. And all the others joined as well for the same reason. We are the party of free speech and free thought. That's what we're fighting for. So it's not just Brexit. Brexit now is the most important thing. We mustn't get carried away with other things. We must concentrate on Brexit. But freedom of speech is the most precious thing we have. And in your society, I'm an old buffer now. I'm not long for the world. You guys hopefully will last a lot longer. And society is changing in a deeply unpleasant way. And the European Union, of course, leading this. Last week in the European Parliament, we had the Copyright Act brought in. The reason was, we're going to protect artists' rights, that sort of rubbish. It had nothing to do with that. It was all about closing down the internet. Because the internet is a threat. UKIP is here because of the internet. If it hadn't been for the internet, there would be no rise of UKIP. Simply wouldn't have happened. It's because Nigel was able to get on telly, he was able to bypass the media, the press barons, the unions, all that sort of guff, the government. He was able to get past that and get to the people. That internet is very precious to us, and you must all fight for that. Now, this copyright thing, they're worried. The European Union see this as a problem. It's creating populist parties throughout Europe. In France, the Front National, the Patriots, all sorts of populist parties, anti-European Union populist parties are coming to the fore. The Hungarians, the Poles, and it's all fired up by the internet, the ability to get cheap media. Now, they need to get rid of this before the next European elections that are coming up. And if they don't get rid of it, there's going to be a tsunami, not just a wave, a tsunami of populist parties coming into the European Parliament. And that, they fear, is going to be the end of it. And I think that's very much the case. I've been making speeches in French in France to French audiences to try and make sure that this message of Brexit gets over to the French, that they need Frexit. The French no more like the European Union than we do. But the thing about the European Union for them is that France is not competitive in a capitalist world. So they need to nobble all the other countries in Europe to make sure they're as ineffective as they are. So that's why the European Union is of use to France. But that works for big businesses and the ruling class in France. But that doesn't work for small people in France who you don't want their lives dominated by the European Union. They want to be able to have their say and make sure their deputies are able to represent them, and it's not by some supranational government in Brussels. So there is a movement in France for this, and to do things the French way. And I'm all for that. I want Britain to do things in the British way, France to do things in the French way, and Germany to do things in the German way. That's the beauty of freedom and liberty and freedom of speech. And the French are now getting the message that we're giving them, and this is coming from us, that we're giving this message to the French, that their liberty, their ability to speak is going to be impeded if the internet is nobbled by the European Union. So my message to you today is the freedom that you've got by being members of UKIP is precious. It gives you the ability not to muppet like the Conservatives, Mr. Tory boy, the spotty Tory boy who's mouthing the party nostrums. You're not like that. You're not expected to be like that. You're supposed to think for yourself, come up with ideas, and do something with your lives, not just follow the herd. So UKIP and UKIP in particular, the young UKIPers, you are the future. you've got to follow on from us, and you mustn't let the party become stodgy. You mustn't let the party end up like a Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Party, where ordinary members have no say, and it's all done by press conference, rule by press conference. We don't want that. We want people to have a say. You guys, that's what you've got to stick to. Now, I think I've said enough, unless anyone wants to ask me any questions. Anyone want to say anything?
What's the next step with the Article 11 and 13? Is it because it's been accepted? Is that the end? Or is there...
Well, it's going to come back to the Parliament, and we can then try and do what we can with it. There'll be amendments and changes. We'll try and nobble it there, but effectively, it's gone through. We did what we can to stop it, and we've got the people. I mean, we brought the people in, Dankula and Aragon and all that bunch. They were instrumental in getting that message out to the people. Again, it's our instrument, the internet, and you guys know about it more than I do. I'm good at doing Twitter and tweeting and stuff like that, but I'm no technical genius, I'm going to show you. I mean, I pick up a mobile phone and it goes off. It ceases to be. I've got some sort of personality. I'm totally antediluvian. So, you guys have got to specialise in that. We've got to command the heights of the internet, because that's where our vote goes. We cannot compete with the establishment and newspapers and all the rest of it. So we've got to compete where we can, and we'll stop them nobbling it. User.
When does Article 13 actually get enacted? When does it come into effect?
Well, I think it's got to come back to the Parliament. Yeah. What do you think, John? I think it'll come back to the Parliament, and then we discuss it. Okay. And then what we'll do is put in what we technically call nobbling amendments. We'll sort of try and put in things that will nobble it. It probably won't do any good, because the vast majority there are the liberal establishment, sort of soggy liberals, sort of right-wing socialists. That is the dominant thing in Europe, and they're there forever. I mean, they don't even, when we have votes in the European Parliament, the chairman, the president, normally doesn't even bother looking up. He just goes through it like the Perth cattle auction, because he knows that if it's if the GUI and the whatever the other liberal one are called, the GUI and I can't remember those stupid names. Aldi, that's it. It's all named after supermarkets for some reason. GUI and Aldi support something. There's no point in anybody even looking at the votes, because it's just a foregone conclusion. We naively arrived at the Parliament, and Jill and I getting up, I'll get red in the face, being red in the face, up and jumping up and down and screaming, "You're not looking at the vote, you're just passing it through." And he's so like, "But you're gonna, I don't need to look at it, because it's all a foregone conclusion. You might not even bother coming here." And that's the problem with the European Parliament. It's fixed, and that's why we get nowhere. That's why none of our amendments or any of our things really get through. Occasionally, we manage to score a little goal, but in general, we're completely outvoted, which is why we have to leave. But yeah, again, it's coming back a couple of months, I think, something like that, and then there'll be another sort of pop at the cherry. But it'll go through. Maybe, not sure how many months it then goes through the commissioner. I'm not sure these things take a while to go through. Anyone else? Mr. Chairman, shall I hand over to you?
Thank you, David. That was brilliant. I'm getting funny looks from our chairman. So, as David mentioned, one of the great points about UKIP is that the whole party, from leader to chairman to National Executive Committee, right down to the branches, they all embrace the youth wing. They are always working with us, always seeing how we can help build online presence, which has been so important in the past, how we can help with branches, campaigning, street stalls, delivering leaflets, what we can do to modernise the party. The party are always coming to us, and in no other party does that happen. The Conservative Party banned their youth wing because they said one thing that they disagreed with. The Lib Dems, as far as I'm aware, don't have a youth wing. The Greens, as far as I'm aware, don't have a youth wing, and if they have one, it's certainly not relevant.
They're all the youth wing.
Oh, exactly. So, and then you've got Labour. Well, as I said before, momentum, violent anti-Semites. I'm not really sure that's credible. So UKIP are the only party that has a youth wing that's actually involved in the politics. We're not there to give the media some sort of sound bites. We're here to affect this party, to affect policy, to affect what's going on, to affect what the leader's doing, to affect what the chairman's doing, and give our input. to help this party. That's why we're here. And one person who's supported us for a very, very long time through that, with all sorts of contributions, support, advice, is our Honorary President, Jill Seymour. And Jill is speaking next. Thank you.
I was wondering who he's talking about then. Well, good afternoon. I'd like to just say who are actually YI members, because there is some that look a little bit more older than... Okay. Could you tell me where your ladies are?
Me and Nate.
Right, there is a serious point to that, because many years ago you had quite a lot of females joining the YI. And what you've got to be very, very careful of, guys, is you don't end up being the boys' club. And when you're young, it's natural, the girls go to one corner, the boys go to the other, you know, and you tend not to join up. So what I would first say to you all is when you go back to your branches, you've got friends, you can't tell me none of you don't know any girls. Not when you go and try and, not when you tell me you've got plenty of these about. There is something seriously wrong that you are now inviting Nigel into your bedroom. I mean, if the media read that, they'll think there's two in the bed and Nigel's the one that's got the most important job. Clever little stunt that was. It may seem inappropriate to certain people, but Nigel always told me it doesn't matter whether it's negative news or positive news. If it's news, they're talking about you.
It's the growth industry.
But care for the growth. Being in the party as long as I have, why I didn't exist when I first started. The occasional young person would come along and the branches would frighten him off or her off. And the reason for that is because you're fit. I'm worn out. I might go and do 2 streets and you've probably gone and done 4 streets. You know, you're fit guys, you're enthusiastic, you're passionate. One of the problems I also see with YI is that you sometimes have a mentor. You might look at Dave and think, I want to be like him in the future. And you know, there's no problem. But what I'm trying to say is, and David knows me better than that, there's no problem. But there's a lot of people wanting to be Nigel. And actually the body language, often I find in YI, they start to, if you notice Nigel, when he's getting to a point, he rocks. He actually rocks. If you watch Paul Nuttall actually started to shadow Nigel's persona, the way he presented himself. So what I'm trying to say is, don't try and copy somebody else. Stick to your principles. Be true to yourself in what you believe in politically. Now, David touched upon free speech and that we don't have the whip. Years ago, my chief of staff, Thomas Hoof, who will be here tomorrow, so I apologise, Tom, if I'm speaking out of turn, him and Jack Duffin used to actually monitor the YI Facebook sites. And there was a really serious point to this. Because you're young, you're passionate, you're still learning, but you're enthusiastic. Never want to stop, ever stop enthusiasm. But you see something on the media, you see something and you think, and you start, you know, tweeting and Facebooking. There are many YI guys we've had to remove from the party because they've made a statement that they can't take off, that somebody screenshot. It also ruins their future careers, whatever job they're looking at, because they've made a statement. When you, as life goes on, and you know, there's many guys in here, and David and I, you know, and the other David at the back. When you make a comment, however flippant it might be it will stick with you like glue. And the media will often look back 5 years, 10 years, to see what you said when you were young in your political career. So the point is, when you're the figurehead of UKIP, you're trying to encourage others on board, just be very, very careful. It may be late at night, you may have had several pints. Tell me how many of you not actually had 6 to 8 pints at night, and then you're on your Twitter talking politics. Now Trump, I don't know whether he's drunk half the time, because some of the things he comes out with, he's got to be drunk. But it's the way he is. He can take it on the chin. But you guys are going to be careful. If you are drinking and you suddenly go on your Facebook or your Twitter, be very, very careful what you say. Because if you do want to go into politics, if you do believe in the cause of UKIP, you're representing, you're the figurehead, you're the, as chairman, whatever you do, people are following you. Bring new people on board, they're looking at you, they're watching you, they're making sure you're showing by example what to do. So you've got to be very, very careful. Do I want you to stop doing it? No. I want you on Facebook, I want you on social media, because at the end of the day, when in UKIP that we didn't have YI, when we had the general election, when we had the referendum, why do you think we won? It's because of the social media. David was absolutely bang on. Social media is one of UKIP's biggest strengths. But there are a lot of mature UKIPers that haven't got a clue. And you guys are there. We need you to help the older ones. So actually, it's not me trying to help you. We want you to help us. We want you to guide all the branches to take them off the old style websites. I'm sure you've all clicked onto your local branch website, think, oh God, that's so out of date. You see a leaflet and you look, oh, that's so out of date. Try to find ways of bringing in modern ideas, modern leaflets, modern websites, modern language, because we are going to fizzle out, disappear, go off to heaven, leaving you for the rest of the future for this country. So if you don't start stepping in and trying to offer your services, whatever it is, don't be afraid to ask. Your mum and dad, I'm sure your mum's all said, you know, if you want something, ask. There can always be a yes or no. Because I've always believed in UKIP, you're probably going to say why. I absolutely believe that everything that's going on in this country now is for your benefit. Or for you're the ones who are going to have to suffer. And for me, at the moment, the young people have been told, and you hear it all, anybody who's gone to college are likely to be Remainers. So you have to ask yourself, why am I the one that's leaving? Why am I seem to be the sole one in my group of friends that's a leaver? And bring those friends on. Do you have social events where you actually bring on other people to a function, where you actually have a debate and a discussion with probably the Remainers? If you're frightened of doing it, then talk as a group and find ways where you get a bit of backup, a bit of support. Because once you spread that word, once you actually make that contact, I had some visitors who came to Strasbourg about a month ago. They were not UKIP. In fact, the parents probably might have bordered on leave, but they weren't quite sure. But their teenage son, who was 21, their daughter, who was 18, were both Remainers. And in fact, where's Fraser at the back? It's true, isn't it?
Yep.
You showed them around. They just took it all on board, what was happening in Parliament and everything else. And then they came to meet me, and the guy said, I don't think there's anything you're going to say to me to change my mind. And my first words were, I'm not going to change your mind. Because it's called democracy. If you believe totally in your heart, after you've done your research, that you believe staying in the European Union is the way forward, I support it. I don't agree with it, but I support it. I don't go out of my way looking to have that argument with anybody. Because if people are on the fringe of having an open mind, he turned around to me and said, that's a bit of a shock. I didn't think UKIP were like that. I thought you'd be telling me all, you know, we've got to hate this place. I said, no, quite the opposite. There are things that go on in the European Union, you know, there are things you can see that could be good for the country. But we need to have the control to make that decision. What is the point of having an island and having our own government? We might as well get rid of the MPs. For me, we should have that choice. But if we went for the vote, which we did the first time, and if we've all heard it, we won. Against all the odds. I mean, the most heartbreaking moment was when Joe Cox was stabbed. Within less than 24 hours, the media declared that that person, who I believe was mentally unstable, was a Brexiteer. You know, if that is not the worst, lowest of media source I've ever heard, to me that was one of them. So going back to you guys, I will always, wherever I can, till next year, I'm moving on to green pasture. Well, I'm not. I'm actually going back to the old green pasture, which is running my company with my husband. I've got several companies going, and I'm going back to that. I've been in UKIP over 16 years. I have seen leaders coming and going. Believe me, every one of them. Roger Natman, going back the time before that. Geoffrey Titford, who was actually one of the party leaders in the past. A real gentleman, very calm, very level-headed. But something you guys mentioned, I think I just picked up earlier, that, you know, there's no YI in the Conservatives, or there's no... Actually, you nearly lost YI. In fact, if I hadn't stepped in at the time, you would have lost it. I can't remember the circumstance, but I think you guys might have remembered, was Henry Bolton, who at the time, I believe, had all the credentials, and quite a lot of us thought that. He had all the credentials, but I think his credentials were left in a different bedroom. So let's just say that's where it was. But Henry didn't really see the YI the way I did. And the why I wanted to discuss with them the changes of the membership, because if you remember, the membership shot up. Ridiculous amount of money. And they went down to London to meet him. He didn't have the politeness to turn up in time. I think it was an hour later or something at the time, was it? 2 hours, wasn't it? It was disgusting. And though I don't agree with Paul Oakton, thank you, in any form whatsoever, he did at least have a proper conversation. He turned up on time and he found some mutual ground. I also, and I can't tell you which leader it was in the past, something started going wrong with the social media sites with YI guys, and in the NEC, we wanted to shut it down. Shut the YI down. So there has been moments throughout the history of YI where it's been very, very up and down. So I'll go back to Tom and Jack Duffin. Their job was to monitor the language that was used on the social media sites. Just so if there was a new guy that just turned up out of the blue, full of enthusiasm, starting, I'm under the UKIP, and of course you're using the UKIP logo, you're quite happy to put it on the website, aren't you, or on your Facebook. But actually, you should have permission from the party to use that. None of us do. I mean, how we actually go around branding that we're UKIP, who's giving you that authority to do it? But because the party is quite, let's be honest, we're into people having that freedom of choice and decisions, we're a bit soft on that side, but it can be dangerous. Because once that UKIP logo is stuffed on that Facebook, and you start twisting away, you're representing the party. Even though it might be UKIP, your own private Facebook. Be careful, be careful. I don't know if you've got people monitoring. I don't know if you have other social events. I've already said to the guys, I will support you. Whatever it is I can up to next year. If I can give you money to help for your events, if you've got a leaflet, if you've got an idea and you turn around to me and say, Jill, we want to put some money into that, I'm more than happy to help. But think about why you haven't got the ladies in here as well. Because don't make it a boys' club, guys. You know, it's great having the condom, but, you know, I have to have a word with Nigel about that. But no problem at all. No problem at all. But please, just remember, there are young girls out there who are equally politically aware of what's going on. Make them feel welcome. Think of something you can do. Have those kind of meetings. And if you need my help, I'm more than happy to give it. I'm not going to ramble on more because politically, I think you all know where UKIP is. David's covered the EU. The only thing I would say about the EU, when I first joined, I think it was the first 3 months, David, if I remember, we were supposed to vote for a particular guy. None of us had ever heard of him. A bit like Nigel saying, who are you? And we decided a no vote. I was still getting my feet wet because it's quite a frightening experience, believe me, going straight into that place. And Schultz was on the main, he was the president at the time. We had a yes vote, about 80%. We had about 5% for abstentions. We were waiting for the no vote, because that's what we were going to do. Nothing happened. And we just looked at each other thinking, where's our no vote? Jonathan Arnott stood up, who knew the rule book to the absolute bit, didn't he?
He is a girlfriend.
And he said, point of order, Chairman, where is our no vote? you're not getting it. I have the right and the choice to not give it to you. And I learned more or less within the first 3 months that if they don't want you to have that choice, I'm not going to give it to you. The second example was TTIP. We were being bombarded thousands of emails about TTIP. And we wanted to say that we could give you an answer. When somebody emailed me, I could give them an answer. We had it on the agenda in the European Parliament, and for some unknown reason, it got pulled off, didn't it, David?
Yeah.
So Stuart Agnew, I think, if I'm correct, was it Stuart Agnew, David?
It was.
He got permission to go and read the documents.
He went and it wasn't allowed a pen, it wasn't allowed paper.
He wasn't allowed his mobile phone.
Nope.
A person had to stand above him to make sure what he was reading, that he wasn't taking any copies or any of it. It was a secret room. So we thought, this is ridiculous. We have thousands of people want to know what is going on with TTIP. That's our job. That's what you're paying us to do, to give you that information. It didn't happen. So again, Jonathan Arnott looked at the rule book to see if there was a rule that we could use to bring that back on the agenda. He found one. If more than 40 MEPs went into the chamber, it's a very funny day that was, if 40 MEPs went into the chamber, brought the point of order, they have to put it back on the agenda. So we had a few drinks in the bar in the afternoon, typical UKIP, we have fun. We are the ones with a smile on our faces, and you need to in there because everybody else looks like they're dying. I'm not exaggerating. We are the fun. The staff know that UKIP are the ones that actually have a little bit of humour.
Spend the money in the bar.
We do. And slowly but surely we noticed that the chamber was actually getting empty. And there was less and less and less. Everybody kept popping in just to see how few were there. And they said, right, now's the time. Now's the time for us to start. So we're literally, over 15 minutes, we're dripping into the chamber. And we had support from other parties on this particular thing we were doing. And then all of a sudden the chamber thinks, God, what's going on? The chamber's starting to get full again. So Jonathan Arnott pulled this point of order saying we'd like to bring TTIP back on the agenda.
Vote immediately.
We didn't notice, but we heard this noise in the background. I thought, what's going on? Can you hear that? And we thought the bell gone. I thought, well, hang on a minute. She'd only pressed the fire alarm bell to get all the other MEPs out of their offices to shift their butts as fast as they can back into that chamber so that she could stop us from doing it. They said that we brought unrest, and we were antagonising, we were aggressive. We had one guy say, point of order. I don't quite know where all that came from. Anyway, we lost because all these MEPs came in and they said no, and we lost. When we went back to the rule book, about within the 4 weeks after that, you wouldn't be surprised, they removed that particular rule. And so whatever you do in the European Parliament, and I'm sure those with London Assembly, the Welsh Assembly, you realise that however you try and do things correctly, if it doesn't suit them, they will change it. If they don't want to hear it, they will stop it. And I think the worst time recently was the Hungarian Prime Minister. And I said to people, my friends, don't know whether you agree with them or not, surely somebody that's a Prime Minister who had a majority, had over 50% votes, surely that you'd have some respect for him when he turns up. He is the Prime Minister of the country. The language, if you ever get to watch the YouTube, I encourage you to do that. It was like a pack of wolves attacking him. I've never heard such aggressive, foul language. They're allowed to do it. But to me, I thought, this is not the kind of politics I want to really be in. If this is how other people behave, it's disgusting. And it is that same old saying, it's a rule for one or a rule for another. So all I say, guys, I'm here to support you, but just remember, whatever you say stays with you for life. Okay.
Thank you, Joe, for that speech. That was brilliant. And again, thank you for all your support over the years. So a few points Joe raised there is obviously in terms of young girls and young independents. And I am proud to say that over the last year or so, we have really worked hard on that, and we have now got a very increasing number of young girls joining UKIP and joining Young Independents, and that's something we're really proud of and that we're going to keep doing. So that's one point. And another point, obviously, on the social media side of it. Jill's right. If you say something on social media, if someone screenshots that, that's it. That's out there. And you do need to be careful, and we are very careful with what we're putting out there. And we are keeping up. We do support free speech, and free speech is very important, particularly online, especially after what the EU is doing. But at the same time, there is also a balance to be struck in terms of what UKIP should be putting out there, what's politically sensible and what's stupid. And it is important as the YI Council to make sure that free speech is allowed, but the right sorts of direction is used online, the right sorts of language is used to discuss free speech and to allow free speech to prosper. And one other point is, obviously, Jill mentioned that we have the Nigel Farage condoms. If you want to pick one, or 10, or as many as you like up, we're selling them for £1 each, or you can get 4 for £2. They're at our stall, or we've got some at the back of the room.
Don't worry, I'm giving them to my son.
There you go. So obviously there's lots of things you can buy from the YI store. We've got a few samples of things back there. We've also got some cups if you'd like any wine. Feel free to go and grab some. And then at the store we've got ties, we've got badges, we've got bottle openers, obviously the condoms. We've got all sorts of things you can get hold of, so please do go and give us a
Seems to
visit.
mention the word condom quite a lot.
It's a very popular
Is that
product.
something that you would like?
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
With the YI girls, is there a prominent individual or a group of them that can actually have, girls do like to have a girly night, things like that, to build up friendship, and like you guys do. Do you have a particular individual or couple of girls that could actually have events where it's...
I mean, we can talk to, obviously, the girl members we've got, but generally we try to include all members in everything we do, because we don't want to have a female only or a male only. We don't want a boys club.
but it's just, it
yeah.
builds up new friends.
We certainly want to make sure that all the girls in my life feel comfortable, and I think they do. We just got to work to get more of them. And I think when we do events, we try to include everyone in all the events we do. We don't want a girls only, boys only. We want everyone included to make sure that we're working as hard as we can for the party.
I have one other question.
Yep.
Freshers affairs.
Yes.
What happens to those? Do you still go to them?
Where we've got enough members to get a strong stall, yes, we go to Freshers' Fairs, and usually when we go, we get quite a good reception. And we've got, in this year, we've been to a couple. We're looking to go to as many as we can, and over the next year, that's something we're going to really focus on.
Do you also get rejection?
I'm not aware of any we've had recently, but I do believe we've had some in the past. We're actually going to have a talk from our students' chairman, Joe. I can't see him now. We are going to have a talk from Joe, our students' chairman. He's just sat there.
Literally right.
Sorry. So he's the best person to ask about that. Yes, Dave?
Can I say something? One of the best ways, we got away with in the university. In my day, if you had the opinions that we have, they'd have you arrested. So the best way I found of getting through to people was having a sort of, how should we put, free speech events. And the good thing about free speech events, you don't have to say it's a UKIP event, you just have a little free speech society, which is really a cover for UKIP. And then you get people on to free speech. Now, if they're interested in free speech, once you've listened to a few people like Count Dangler, people like that, invite them to your I think you'll find you'll get a lot of support. And that's the way to do it.
Unfortunately, I organised a free speech conference early this year and it got shut down by Antifa.
Yeah.
So,
He backfired that one, didn't it?
yeah.
Well, you
We
need
have
some
tried.
big, strong people on these
But
things as
I
well.
also, now I'm going to go, because I think you guys like to have your own private without us having, well, you messing around. But the YI Seymour Shield, is that being notified to people today? Or?
Yes, I'll mention that. I'll talk about that now. So at our conference, we will be having the Seymour Shield, which is a speaking competition at our conference, and obviously any YI members are free to enter, and obviously it raises money for YI, and the winner will get the Seymour Shield
£100.
and
A
£100
shield
prize.
with their name on it, £100 for first, 75 for second, and £50 for third. But what we found when we started it is that you have lots of young guys that are members, but probably not come up to your branch meetings or not done that, and they suddenly see this competition, actually apply, go up on the stage and make their quick 5-minute or 3-minute speech, and we all go, wow, where's he been? And, you know, often it's just that golden opportunity for you to show your skill sets that you can, as a group, can find really, really useful. So you're a confident speaker, and that's the kind of thing we need to find from young people.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
I'm Russell Hicks and do some PR things for UKIP. Had a fantastic photograph a few conferences ago of a group of YI people standing on some steps somewhere. And it was a beautiful photograph of all these happy young faces. And I wondered if you plan to try to get a photograph like that again.
Yeah, we can do after this.
Good. Very, very
I
important.
know the photo you mean, actually. Yeah, that was, I think it was in 2014.
And that, you know, a good picture says 1,000 words, and it says a lot about UKIP that we have actually got some young people, because there's too many of us old grey-haired ones around.
And the
Yes.
one at the race course, do you remember the one we had?
Yeah, the one of people walking, that was great. That was really good. That was another. Yeah, we are.
Pinch some girls, get some girls in there.
Yeah.
Hi.
We're not hiring some guys, but. So yeah, I mean, we are definitely working to get lots of photo opportunities and media opportunities, and particularly at our conference in November, we're going to make sure we've got lots of that going on. So our next speaker to introduce is actually, as mentioned, the students chairman, UKIP students chairman, who is, and our media officer of Young Independence, Joe Simons. Thank you.
I'm just going to move these out of frame of the live.
Trying to reconnect. You're all right.
I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet because there's not a lot to say here really. I'm just going to give you an update on what's going on with UKIP students, say what UKIP students is, what we're doing, and how more people can get involved. So about this time last year, my predecessor as UKIP students chairman, Jake, he stood and he said, UKIP students is going to become independent from YI. Unfortunately for Jake, and sorry Jake, he's not here, he's somewhere, I've reversed that entire legacy. We made the decision that UKIP students, as it stands, isn't large enough to be independent. At the time, I think we had about 4 societies, which is all right, but it's not good enough to kind of break away from YI and lose that support. And the support from YI has been fantastic, particularly with Nate and Reece. So where are we now? We lost the York Society, unfortunately. However, we are looking to get some new societies. And with the huge influx we have had in YI, I've been monitoring who goes to which universities, and we should be getting a few more popping up. But I'd just like to say why UKIP, well, what is UKIP students for a start? Is just very simply the collection of UKIP societies at universities. That's all it is. And why it's important is simply because there is a need for UKIP on university campuses. So I'd like to talk from my own experience for a second. I go to the University of Kent in Canterbury, and we've got a society there, and it was Freshers' Fair yesterday. And we had our stall, and the amount of people we had coming up to us saying, wow, it's great you're here. Thank you for being here. I didn't expect UKIP to be on a university campus. Because, of course, we all think of universities as being these horribly liberal places with cultural Marxists and Antifa members running about everywhere. And to an extent, that might be true. But there's a huge group of people at pretty much every single university that agrees with the things that we agree with, and who wants somebody to speak out for things like free speech, things like opposing cultural Marxism and political correctness. And that's what we were told over and over again at the Freshers' Fair yesterday, and it will be the same at all universities. And I'm sure if you were to ask Seb at the back over at Exeter, I'm sure he'd say the same thing. And Jake at Essex, even though he's not here, he would say the same thing again. So how can people get involved in UKIP students? I'm not sure who... have we got any university members here? No? Okay. But going to addressing the live stream, because I'll put this on the UKIP students page, if you want to get involved with UKIP students, all you need to do is find about 3 people, because that should be what it takes for most unis to form a committee. and go to your student union. That's pretty much it. And if you go to the UKIP students' Facebook or Twitter, you'll find lots of information on how you can get in touch, and we will give you all the help needed. It's not difficult to run a university society. You might get opposition, and goodness knows we have had opposition, but the amount of opposition versus the reception that you get from the people who genuinely want to have someone representing them, I mean, the appreciation massively outweighs the negative. At our Freshers' Fair yesterday, we had one guy who threw a bit of a strop. He got our leaflets and he threw them onto the floor, and he went off with a load of badges. The joke being on him, though, because we wanted to get rid of those badges anyway, because they're from the Bolton days. So, you know, that one guy, we had a full list of people who had signed up to hear more from us. We had even more people talking to us, saying how nice it was to see us. That is always going to outweigh the negative. And this can go for YI in general. Don't be afraid to get involved. You might get a bit of criticism from someone, but the amount of people in UKIP, and even outside of UKIP, who will back you up and say, well, hold on, you have your free speech, you shouldn't be attacked like this. That is always, they're going to be by your side. As long as you're not saying something stupid, they will be there to say, you have the right to say this. And frankly, even if someone is saying, nah, you can't say it, screw that, frankly. You have the right to say it, and you know, who's to say what you can and can't say? And this is big on campus. We've had the same thing go on at Kent. We've had the student union say, you can't say this, we're going to shut you down unless you apologise. And you can outwit them. Most of the time, they're not serious, they won't shut you down. As long as you know you haven't broken any rules, they can't shut you down. You just need to stand up and say, we're not going to give in to this cultural Marxist, politically correct, whatever it is dogma. We have our free speech. We're not harming anyone. We're not threatening anyone. We're saying our point of view, and that's fine. And that's all I really wanted to say. So there were a couple of questions earlier about student things in general. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them, even though it's a bit of a specific field.
If there are any questions, can we take those at the end? Because we're running a little bit short for time. If you could go up to Joe at the end, is that okay, everyone?
That'll do fine. So yeah, back to the live stream. If you want to get involved with UKIP students, drop the Facebook page a message, or there's an email listed. And if anyone just wants to lend a hand anywhere, if there's a university somewhere, again, that would be great, even if you're not a student. Because a bit of support is always appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe, for that. Another great speech. We're actually very proud to be working really closely with UKIP students, and that UKIP students is a part of Young Independence. And it's a very important part of Young Independence, because universities are the best place for young people to get involved in politics. It's thousands of young people in a tiny little area. It's brilliant. So the point is, with UKIP students within YI, there are so many opportunities to get UKIP on campus and to get Young Independence on campus, and that's something we're really keen on building even stronger over the next year.
I forgot to mention as well, it's also a good excuse to go to Wetherspoons.
Any excuse for a Wetherspoons. And so something else that I did want to point out is, I can't remember it now, that's not very good. That was it. So there has been a little bit of confusion. I'm the deputy chairman, Nathan is the chairman. Obviously I know I should be chairman, but Nathan is chairman.
Still a child.
This attitude towards young people is the problem we have. Anyway, moving swiftly onwards. Our next speaker is somebody from Wales, which is an area that we really do want to build up the youth wing and really do want to move forward to get more young people involved. And that's Assembly Member David Rowlands. Thank you.
First of all, I'm going to try my hardest not to rock back and forth. So, I have to say that when I first joined the party, which is 20 years ago, when we looked out on that audience when we had these meetings, it was very much a sea of this sort of colour. It's so gratifying in two ways, actually, that we're now seeing the youth coming into UKIP. And it's gratifying that after 40 years of the propaganda that's been pumped into our youth about Europe and everything that's good about Europe, that these people can think out of the box, think for themselves, and come up with the idea that, no, wait a minute, the European Union isn't that good. And I think they all need applauding for that. It's all right for the people of my age who knew what it was like to be outside the European Union and have had 20 years to look at it and analyse it and say it isn't a good institution. In fact, it's a very bad institution. But these people have been fed that propaganda for over 40 years, and they are coming out and saying, no, it isn't a good institution, and we want to fight against it. So it's really gratifying to have you on board. And I think, truthfully, as Jill said earlier on, you are the future of UKIP. And we will keep the boat afloat as far as we can, and as long as we can. But you have to take the helm at some time in the future, and the sooner that happens, the sooner that we have the very young, and when I say young, to me, anyone who's probably under the age of 40 is young. But we need you now to take over the helm of this Britannia boat that we are trying to push forward, and we've done for 20 years. I think we've done a pretty good job of it. But it's the youth who will take it further. And I implore you to go out there, change the views of your peers, because that's the problem that we have. The views of so many of the young are towards the left of politics. One thing I'd like you all to do when you go away from here is to start talking about the fascist left. Why do I call them the fascist left? Because a fascist believes that in some way he is superior to another person. These people, the fascist left, believe that anybody who doesn't agree with their political views is some way intellectually inferior. That's one part of their fascism. The other part, and it's been pointed out today, it's the hooliganism that comes with them. They harass, they bully, and that is actually what happened with the brown coats so many years ago in Germany. That was their politics. So these, the momentum and all the rest who were on that very far left of British politics, they are the true fascists within politics. And I want you to take that, use it, because I've had to live my 20 years within UKIP being called a racist. And whatever we did, it's taken an awful lot of time for us to get rid of this tag. We've got to put this tag of fascists on those, so that the youth of this country, and youth hates that word fascist. They hate to be involved with fascists. Well, the true fascists are the left in British politics, and we must put that tag on them. Jill said about saying something, either on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever it is, that will stick, and it will stick with you for the rest of your life. Well, one of the people in UKIP Wales, John Reece, just mentioned about a homosexual donkey. That actually, he could never ever get rid of that one tag. It just says a flippant comment, and they picked up on it. It stuck with him through all the time that he was with UKIP. He's left UKIP at this moment. A very able person, but that stuck with him. So think about what Jill said. Whenever you do something, whenever you make a comment, because they're going to pick up on that sort of thing. So all I can say is that I'm massively gratified by what you are doing within UKIP, and anything I can do to support you or build that organisation that you are building so properly, I will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Another brilliant speech again. So I will move quickly on, only because we're running short of time. Our next speaker is our treasurer and the very infamous condom salesman, Sebastian.
So Reece is absolutely right. I came up with the idea for the condoms, and I would just like to correct one thing that Jill said. She said they might hinder you in the bedroom. Hinder you. These are aphrodisiacs, okay? I implore all of you to go out and buy one. They will do you no harm. But I want to talk briefly about the patron system that we've newly relaunched. I want to talk about how our finances are doing and also how our membership's doing briefly before I put over to the chairman. First off, our membership has gone through the roof. When Count Dankula came in, when Sargon came in, when Paul Joseph Watson came in, we expanded exponentially. But we needed a steady ship to do that. And obviously Gerard helped a great deal. But we needed a steady ship in our young wing as well. And I don't want to sing his praises too much because he won't fit out the door. But Nate has done a great job. He really has. I think he deserves a round of applause. When I took over as treasurer, we had 3 patrons. And one of them was giving £3 a month. We now have over 10. We have over 10 patrons, each giving between £5 a month and £50 a month, and we're growing every single day. I'm going to talk a bit more in detail about that in a bit, but we really are doing a lot better than we were. So once again, thank you, Nate. In its time of need, UKIP needed £100,000 or else it was going to go bust. And we all said we should do what we can and help out as best we can. But a lot of people weren't putting their money where their mouth was, but I thought, no, we must do something about this. And the exec agreed, and we as an organisation, which doesn't have too much money, we agreed to give £2,000, which was over 60% of what we had in the bank. We agreed to give that to UKIP to help, and we're obviously very glad that it's all been sorted out now, but we are very proud to play our part. We may be the youth wing of the party, but we don't want to be the kids. We want to sit at the adults' table with the adults. Thank you very much. We've got lots of exciting events coming up. I'm sure Nate will talk about that, but we've got free speech events soon at different universities. We've got conference coming up. If you want to help out, obviously I'll talk to you about patrons in just a minute, but please do buy some merch. We've already raised over £150, and that was just from condom sales alone, and I kid you not, they've been selling, as Jake Paul would say, like a god church. Okay? Nobody gets the reference? Okay, that's fine. So in terms of patrons, we used to have one tier, which was you pay £25 a month, you become a patron. Any less, no thank you. Any more, no special recognition. And we had a particular patron who donated over £200 a month, which was amazing. It's really amazing. It's helped us a huge deal. It's enabled us to get venues, put together events, and generally support us quite a bit. So what I decided to do was put together a tiered patron system. So those who had only pocket money could donate and be recognised as a patron, and those who could donate a lot of pocket money could be recognised as patrons. So afterwards, if you want to become a patron, you can become a purple, bronze, silver or gold patron. Purple is £5 a month, bronze is 15, silver is 25, and gold is £50 a month. If you're interested, please do speak to me. I've got some forms, I've got some contacts, we can sort it out. It would be absolutely wonderful. But I'd just like to end by saying this, because I know we're very short on time and I don't want to take up anyone else's time. Membership's growing, finances are growing, we can't do it without you. I'd love to see you all wearing some wristbands, some stickers, some lanyards, and whatever we've got. So please do stop by the stall, please do buy some stuff, and if you want to become a patron, please speak to me afterwards. Thank you very much. Sorry, one more thing, and this is something, this is one thing that only I will care about because I'm a massive enthusiast, but you can now become a patron with cryptocurrency. How about that? There we go, that's one guy. You can donate using Ethereum, Bitcoin, perhaps there'll be more people online who are interested. Please speak to me about that at the end. We're soon going to be updating the website and accepting patronage in cryptocurrency. First young wing, first party of any sort to accept money via cryptocurrency. Big move.
Seb has done a brilliant job as treasurer throughout his entire term, doing so much, and actually one of the big things he's been working on is patrons and of course crypto donations, which will revolutionise the youth wing, really. Will be, like he said, probably the first one in the world, is that fair to say, to accept those donations? First one in the world to accept crypto donations. That's pretty cool.
Probably for a good reason.
Well, we'll see about that. But I'm sure after that convincing speech, we can rely on all of you to be gold, £50 a month patrons. Yeah? Well, our next speaker, we don't have much time, but our next speaker is our national chairman, who has done an incredible amount for the youth wing over the past 10 months, I think.
Yeah.
Nathan Ryding. Thank you, Nathan.
Right, yeah, so I've been the YI chairman now for around 10 months, so my term is almost up. And since I've only got 2 months left, and the only really main thing left is the YI National Conference, which I'll get to later on, is, since this has been live streamed as well, I want to say a huge thank you to Reece for being an amazing deputy for the past 10 months, and well, will be a year. And I want to say a huge thank you to all my exec, to Seb as a treasurer, who's been great with the accounts, to George Pykov, the events officer, who's organised the conference, who tried to organise the free speech conference, but that flopped. And he's been helping our YI regional chairman up and down the country, trying to get social events. So no matter where you are in the country, you can get active, you can meet other YI members. So yeah, huge thank you to that. Now, I was struggling when thinking what I was going to speak about here, because what I will be speaking about will be all about YI, where we was, where we're going, and the transition period. But I'll be speaking all about that at the YI National Conference. I don't really want to repeat myself too much. But what I will say is something that Jill touched on during the Henry Bolton era, is that I was under the influence of Henry Bolton when he first got elected. I thought he's quite a charming bloke. He's got, you know, OBE, everyone knows about that. And I thought that we was going to go places. He seemed really keen on the youth when I spoke to him, when we spoke to him. And then everything started to change. He did things without asking me or consulting me. Like he increased the YI membership fee. It used to be £2 for a year for under 22s, and then it jumped straight to £20. And I only found out after it had already happened. So I wasn't consulted. And that big increase not only cost us new members that said, I'm not paying £20 to join, which was at the time we were seen as a failing political party. Because, you know, we got we won the referendum and we didn't really have a message. So why would someone pay £20 to join a failing political party when the Conservatives are offering less for a membership? Labour offer less for a membership. Greens practically give it away. Or they pay you to be a member. But it wasn't only that. The meeting that I attended was, I had to call his mobile several times in a few weeks. I texted him, I went through head office, and I had to go through Paul Ogden several times just to get one meeting. Okay? And that was to discuss the future of YI, where I want to see YI go, and I wanted to see if there was any chance of a negotiation on the membership fee. So I got there to London. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning. The meeting was supposed to start at midday at 12. Met Paul Ogden at one of the train stations. Went to the meeting. We waited about half an hour, and Henry still wasn't there, so we said, we'll make a start. And I know people have a mixed opinion about Paul Ogden. Before I became YI chairman, I was quite opposed to him as the party chairman. But when I started to work with him, I realised he can be reasonable. And he can work with you if he believes it's in the party's interest. So we worked it out, we spoke, and we agreed on a £12 a year membership for YI, which you can do, which you could have done by direct debit of £1 a month. I thought that's reasonable. £1 a month is nothing if you think of it like that. And then, so it all got set out. We went to a break. I spoke to Reece and my exec, told them exactly the whole plan, what was going to happen. Everyone loved it. We agreed. We said it's a lot better than £20. And then next thing, Henry comes in, 2 hours late, and I start trying to explain what me and Paul have spoken about. and he interrupted me. He told me to stop talking. So I stopped, and then he said, his first words were, "There will be no negotiation." He said, "We are one team, not two. We do not negotiate." So then I went on to try and explain about the Conservative membership fee, Labour's membership fee, and why ours would be so high. We're current members who have been members for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, 50, whatever. They would say they're not renewing because it's not worth it anymore. And I tried explaining that, didn't get through to him, and he just said no. And then he started, because YI has its own constitution, it's got its own executive council, it's got its own national council, we decide what happens in YI. Henry didn't like that either. Henry said he wanted to scrap our constitution, and he said he wanted to disband our deciding bodies, our executive and national council. So then I was like, that's not happening. I will not stand for that. Because that would just basically mean, me as national chairman, I'd just be a puppet. I wouldn't have any authority, I wouldn't be able to do anything with YI unless Henry gave his permission about it. And he didn't like the fact that we were self-funded either. He said, if you're self-funded, you can do your own thing. We don't want you to do your own thing, we want you to do my thing. Not UKIP's thing, he said, my thing. All the time since I've been active in YI, we have done the thing that benefits the party. Anything we do, it's university campuses where we go and speak at. It's social events. Everything we do is in the interest of the party. We've never put money that we've earned, that we've worked hard for in YI. We've never put that into some cause where it's not relevant or it'll make UKIP look like a laughingstock. We've never done it, and we never would. But he wanted to get rid of that as well. And eventually, Jake came in the room because Jake was students' chairman at the time. Jake tried speaking to him about a student's fee. You wouldn't be able to vote, but you'd be a card-carrying member, and he didn't like that either. Okay, and then one thing he promised, and it is live streamed, we have got evidence of this. He did say he wanted to make the YI national chairman the official youth affairs spokesman. This was something he said during the leadership election. This is something he said after winning the leadership election at the YI Fringe event last year. And when I brought that up with him, his exact words were, "I want to see what type of person you are first." And I didn't quite understand that. Because all the way through the campaign, he was saying, it's regardless, whoever won, I don't care who you are, you will get it. And I took that, of what he said, and Paul Upton did as well, and many others, that if I didn't become his little puppet, if I didn't become his lapdog, I would not become a spokesman. So as I told the exec, if he offers it to me, I'm not taking it. Because I'm sticking by the principle. And at the start of the year, I'll be honest, I didn't know if there was going to be a future for YI. I thought we were getting very close to being shut down and disbanded, but luckily we fought, we won, and we removed Henry as leader at the EGM, and now we've got Gerard. And I'm so thankful for Gerard's leadership, who he sadly can't be here at the minute, but yeah, I'm so thankful for him. And it's been within the past couple of months, we've seen a massive surge of young members into the party. And I'm not going to say exact figures because I don't know them at the minute, as the membership, the person who deals with membership lists has been on annual leave. But what I will say is, we was increasing every day that much, where I started to, her name's Ruth, I started to annoy Ruth a little bit. I was asking for a membership list every 2 weeks, because I wanted to get at the young people straight away, contact them. I asked for a membership list on a Monday, got it. I thought, this is great, this is another increase. We're increasing in every single region in the country, and even overseas as well. We're getting a lot of members from America, Australia, and a few in China actually. It's crazy. But yeah, and then 7 days later, I asked for another membership list. Within those 7 days, we had increased by 273 members in 7 days. So those people We've been publicising this all over our social media. And people say, oh, but 1 + 1 is 2. Trying to make out like we've got a low membership. Well, we clearly haven't. If 273 joined in 7 days, and we've been rapidly increasing for the past 5 months, we are the fastest growing youth wing in the country. And the last point I'll say, because we are running out of time drastically, is the YI National Conference. This year it's being held in Worcester on the 10th of November. The venue will be released closer to the date for security reasons. But we've got some amazing speakers. We've got Count Dankula is a confirmed speaker, Sargon of Akkad is a confirmed speaker, Gerard speaking, Gareth speaking, there. You are, aren't you? Yeah. You didn't look too sure then. Yeah, so do get a ticket. It's £10 for a normal YI member, but it is open to all UKIP members. It's £15 for a regular UKIP member, and you'll find out so much more about young independents. No matter how old you are, you can always help the youth wing, and you can always get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan, again, for being a brilliant chairman and for the great speech you just gave. Thank you so much for everything. Obviously, as Nathan mentioned, we have our conference coming up. You can buy tickets at our stall. You can buy tickets on the website, or you can contact us by email, however you want. Get in touch and we'll help you buy a ticket. If you want to come along, you don't have to be a YI member. You can be a friend of a YI member. You can just be an ordinary UKIP member. You are welcome to come along, and we would love you to come along and see all the brilliant speakers we've got and meet the young members of this party. Because actually, there might be young members near to you don't know of who can help you leaflet it. Who knows? So we do need to wrap up because we're quite late. But thank you all so much for coming along today. Please do come and give our stall a visit. Buy whatever you can. Become a patron, please. With your support, we can bring the youth of this country on side with UKIP. I'm convinced they agree with us. They just don't know it yet. They just don't realise that UKIP supports what they support. But going forward, there is a chance to change this country, and we need the young people on side to do it. Thank you so much for coming today. We probably better get out of the room quickly because we're 5 minutes over. But thank you, everyone.